nobody should be more afraid about these trends in the Muslim world than Muslims. And this, I think, will be true for quite some time. But the problem we have to get our heads around is that not every religious community is equally likely to produce an endless supply of suicide bombers or kidnap journalists and aid workers and saw their heads off or seek to perpetrate an act of nuclear terrorism. And it is not bigotry to notice this. And the people who are defending this mosque and the people who are rightly criticizing the racism and bigotry of many people on the political right in this country insist upon saying things like September 11th had nothing to do with Islam, and denying that there's anything different about Islam at this moment in its history, given its actual theology and actual doctrine, than any other religion. And that is something that is a politically correct myth that we have to find some way of penetrating, still retaining our goodwill and tolerance of diversity and our political liberalism.
All right, let's hear the others.
Can I respond to that for a second?
We'll hear from Nick in Monterey Park, who is going to take the opposite point of view. Nick, thank you for calling.
Hi, I just wanted to make a comment that I think the issue about sensitivity is masking some pretty hardcore xenophobic attitudes. And Pat, I'd like to also point out your comment about you equating this mosque being built to McVeigh. And I also heard recently about a comparison of that there shouldn't be a swastika being built next to a synagogue. And I think those are really poor comparisons because I think we're painting the entire Muslim community with a pretty broad brush. These are fundamentalist actors, just like McVeigh was. And that's pretty much my comment. And that's it.
Okay, and Reza Aslan, you must be in agreement.
Well, yes. I mean, look, it's not bigotry to say that there are such things as, radicals and terrorists in the Islamic world. It is bigotry to compare this building of a 13-story multicultural, multi-faith center to Al-Qaeda. And that's exactly what Sam is doing here. I mean, he says quite clearly in his article, yes, I believe in religious freedom, but Islam is fundamentally different. The diversity of beliefs and practices and ideals that motivate other faiths just doesn't count when it comes to Islam. That somehow Islam, as Sam very famously said, is a cult of death. And so you can't say that, I believe in religious liberties and I believe that, people of faith should be able to build houses of worship wherever they want to, except when it comes to Islam, because Islam is different. That's the definition of bigotry.
When it comes to Islam.
Sam Harris.
Let me just clarify my position, because, as I said in my article, you should be able to build structures there that are quite a bit more offensive than a mosque. I think the KKK should be able to build their next clubhouse wherever it's appropriately zoned.
And some people take offense that there's a strip club not far away.
There's all kinds of things that there's a distance between what is legal and what we should be overjoyed about. But the thing to point out about Islam, and this is a fact which Reza, you often want to pirouette around, is that it does have doctrines specifically about martyrdom and jihad that are massively well subscribed, and therefore, and the doctrines also about blasphemy and apostasy and the treatment of women that we're all in the 21st century right to find objectionable, and it presents a unique liability, and we are right to be uncomfortable with that. And specifically, what this mosque provokes is the fear that it will be viewed by some considerable portion of the Muslim world, who knows how many, as a kind of acquiescence on the part of the West to jihad, and that is I don't think that's enough to get us to stop building mosques in Lower Manhattan. But
then why are you bringing it up?
Well, I'm bringing it up is because what has happened is that anyone in our intellectual community generally, but especially on the left, who singles out Islam for special analysis at this moment with respect to terrorism and jihad and treatment of women is immediately accused of bigotry, and that is in the limit, that is going to be a suicidal tendency.
All right, we'll come back with Reza Aslan and with your calls at 866-893-KPCC. Reza Aslan is responding to what it is Sam Harris said. We're talking about the Islamic Center near Ground Zero in New York City. This is 89.3 KPCC. I'm Pat Morrison. We are talking with two top thinkers about the proposal to build an Islamic center near Ground Zero in New York, the controversy it's engendered, and the questions about tolerance, how far it goes, the actual paper nature of the First Amendment, what it is that people can do versus the questions of what they really should do. We're talking about those sensitivities with you as well at 866-893-5722. People are struggling for comparisons. GP on the Pat Morrison page says maybe it's a comparison of putting up a Shinto shrine 2 blocks from the sunken ships in Pearl Harbor, although it was not Shinto, it was Japan that declared war on the United States, just as it was not the world of Islam, but these particular Muslims and their own particular practice who attacked on 9/11. So, Reza Aslan, you were responding to Sam Harris' points.
Well, I'm not going to respond to the issue of Scripture because Sam and I have had this argument on numerous occasions, and the idea that you could sort of go through a Scripture and pick out bits of savagery that's in there and then make some sort of generalization about everybody who believes in this. I think most people, rational people, reject that notion. I mean, if anyone has read Deuteronomy, for instance, which advocates the genocide of non-Jews, or the Mahabharata, which is the most bloody tract written, and people of reason understand that there is historical and cultural context, that there is a literary tradition that influences scriptures, that there are profoundly diverse ways in which over the last thousands of years people have interpreted scripture, and they can interpret it however they want to. What I do want to respond to, however, is this notion of bigotry. Because a bigot is by definition someone who stereotypes an entire people based on the actions or the beliefs of the few, who paints an entire religion, in this case of 1.5 billion people, the second largest religion in the world, based on the actions of people who live in tribal areas of Saudi Arabia or Pakistan, or Arabs who have declared war on the United States and Israel. And that's precisely what Sam is doing. Let's not make any mistake. The argument against the building...
Hang on, let Reza Aslan finish.
The argument against the building of a multi-faith center 2 blocks away from Ground Zero that is going to be run by a Sufi imam, an American Sufi imam, that is somehow a victory, or it'll be seen as a victory for our enemies, or that Americans should necessarily be wary of that, because by definition, if it has something to do with Islam, then it must have something to do with these violent issues and these issues of misogyny or terrorism. That is by definition bigotry.
All right, Sam Harris.
Well, I think what we should be wary of, and I think you should be wary of it as well, Reza, is this tendency that you just displayed of putting up a firewall of false comparisons and non sequiturs against any honest discussion of the doctrine of Islam. I'm not saying all 1.2 billion Muslims are jihadists, and I'm not saying that.
Actually, Sam, you've said those exact same words.
Hang on, Mr. Aslan.
Rather than be accountable to your misremembering what I've said, let me just tell you what I think. The problem that we have to face, and you as someone who explains Islam to the world have to face, is that